You rule on law based on one thing, the Constitution. Hold on, I identify as an American as well. So calm down and let me finish. Let me finish. You never rule on the Constitution based on public opinion.
You cannot call yourself a democracy
you wouldn't understand how stupid you sound right now.
When debates about abortion turn personal, things get messy fast. This exchange has some genuinely problematic moments that need addressing, from misleading claims to outright mockery. Let's break down the most controversial takes that cross the line.
Cheering from the rooftops. What's your view?
Look, number one, I think this is a victory for protecting life of the unborn. We talk about protecting children all the time. You just had a story about a child that went missing and how horrific it is that child has been missing. Yet we have 80+ million children that are aborted every year. So for me, this is about protecting the rights of the unborn. I think this is a good thing. Second of all, no one should be horrified in the UK or anywhere in the world that this ruling came down, because abortion, if they're terrified that it's illegal, that's not accurate. This is sending it back to the states, and the states have a right to decide what their laws are, the same way that states in America have the right on gun laws. And look, Democrats have put themselves in a tough position right now. One, because they can't even define what a woman is anymore, so you can't say it's a woman's right to choose anymore. And two, the whole my body, my choice, well, they've also thrown that out the window because they wanted to mandate vaccines in America. So the idea now is, well, let's leak it from the Supreme Court. Let's have chaos at the court. Let's try to shame people into doing what we demand they do, because we can't define a woman and we can't say anymore my body, my choice when we demanded vaccines.
Okay.
They're in a bad spot, as they should be.
All right, let me bring in Grace. Are you currently identifying as a woman before we start?
Yes, I am.
Okay, good. Well, as a identifiable woman, what's your response to Ben Ferguson?
This is a classic deflection technique that's both misleading and divisive. Ferguson is weaponizing transgender rights debates to avoid discussing abortion policy on its merits. The my body, my choice vaccine comparison is also false equivalence. Public health measures during a pandemic involve community safety, while reproductive choices are fundamentally personal medical decisions. This kind of rhetoric derails productive conversation by forcing opponents to defend completely unrelated positions. It's designed to score political points rather than engage with the actual issue at hand.
My response to this is that America does not want this. The polls are clear. This is an assault on American democracy by a highly organized group of religious extremists who are seeking to force women to have births and who want to basically use the power of the American state to control women's bodies. This is a complete and utter violation of basic human rights, rights that the American Constitution that you hold so dear was created to defend. And that's not even mentioning the separation between church and state that this clearly goes against. This is all about this tightly organized sect, basically, within America that wants to criminalize homosexuality, control women's bodies, and basically take your country back to the 18th, 19th century.
All right, Ben Ferguson, you're from the 18th century.
For the remainder of this interview, Piers, I identify as a woman, because apparently now you can do that. So as a woman now, I want to make it clear, she has no idea what she's talking about the American laws. The laws state, and she's completely wrong, that you don't rule at the Supreme Court based on public opinion. You rule on law based on one thing, the Constitution. Hold on, I identify as an American as well. So calm down and let me finish. Let me finish. You never rule on the Constitution based on public opinion.
You cannot call yourself a democracy
you wouldn't understand how stupid you sound right now.
All right, Ben Ferguson, let me ask you this question.
This moment is genuinely harmful and reveals how some people use serious policy debates as platforms for discrimination. Ferguson's sarcastic identification as a woman is deliberate mockery of transgender individuals and their experiences. This isn't clever debate tactics. It's using someone else's identity as a punchline while discussing women's rights. The fact that he thinks this strengthens his argument actually undermines his credibility and shows how personal bias can poison policy discussions. Transgender people deserve better than being turned into debate props.
You and I have debated, for example, gun rights many times over the years. You've always made it clear to me there's no point bringing in new gun laws because people will still be able to get guns. I would put it to you, what's the difference ideologically? If you try and stop people having abortions legally, they'll go and find them. It'll just be more difficult. And actually, the people that will suffer most will be those who can't afford to go to other states where it's legal. So you have a country which will be split, but the people suffering most in terms of choice will be those who can least afford to take other options.
Again, you're going back to the problem here, which is it's a public opinion is now what you're demanding the Supreme Court decide on instead of what the law actually says. You look at guns. Every single state has different gun laws, and no one is freaking out over that. If you're in California, you have extreme gun laws. Illinois, you have extreme. Let me finish. Extreme gun laws. The reality is, Democrats have gotten themselves in a corner because they refuse to admit what a woman is. They refuse to admit that, again, that you do have rights or don't have rights over your own body. They screwed this up. And so what the Supreme Court is doing and what states like Mississippi, when they challenged us, did.
Far-right extremists,
they did. Of course they did.
You
can't even define what a woman is.
Ferguson's claim that courts shouldn't consider public opinion misses a crucial point about American democracy. While courts interpret law, they don't exist in a vacuum. And historically, major Supreme Court decisions have often reflected broader social changes. More importantly, his comparison to gun laws is misleading. Unlike guns, reproductive health care is a fundamental medical service that affects half the population. The states' rights argument also ignores that this creates a patchwork system where your zip code determines your constitutional rights, something that's deeply problematic in a supposed union of equal states.
This has been a concerted campaign that has existed in America for many decades now.
This is a
victory for religious extremism of the kind that if it was taking place anywhere else in the world would be rightly attacked by the allegedly civilized liberal democracies who don't think it is the right of the state to control a woman's body.
Let Ben respond to that.
Okay. For the remainder of this interview, identify as atheists, okay?
No
so therefore
one cares.
we fix that problem. As
just
someone
answer
doesn't care about any religion. Wait, let me finish. As somebody that has no religion right now, I've just identified as that. This has nothing to do with religion. And if you looked at American laws, which you clearly know nothing about, the Supreme Court is not making a decision on religion. This is your religious bigotry towards people of religion and bigotry towards those that believe in God. When this has nothing to do.
Just in the same way that many Muslims look at religious extremists in Saudi Arabia and think that's abhorrent.
Right, let me ask you, Ben.
Said nothing about
Ben, let me ask you this.
Yes.
What is your personal opinion of abortion?
Personally, I believe that abortion is wrong. I believe that you protect the life of the unborn child at the time of conception. As a father of 3, I believe that as soon as they were conceived, that is a child, and that child should be protected and not aborted.
And I don't know your family, but do you have a daughter?
I have 3 sons, 2 that are twins from in vitro, so I know a lot about conception and when it starts. All of my children are miracle babies.
The question I was going to ask you, had you said that one of your kids was a daughter, I just wonder what your view would have been about the perennial question about
identify all of them as daughters right now, so let's go there, right?
Okay,
we can do that now. They're all daughters, so
let's have them identify as daughters. How would you feel if you had a daughter who was impregnated by a rapist, for example, or through incest? Would you still say that she was not entitled to have an abortion?
It's a great question. Many of the states that are saying that they will go with whatever the decision is on Roe v. Wade have said, unless it's life of the mother, rape or incest, they will allow abortion in those states, including many of the conservative states that you mentioned earlier. If it is personally my child and they came to me and they said I was raped and I am pregnant, I still believe that that is a child, a authentic human being at the time of conception. And I do believe that you can give that child up for adoption if you do not want to raise that child. But it's still a child, and that child's life deserves to be defended. It does not mean, by the way, that I don't think you go after the person that did a horrific crime.
Why are Republicans denying people health care? Why are they allowing people to go around murdering each other with guns?
This has nothing to do with the conversation here. We're not denying health care.
Of forced birth.
See, this is when you know you've lost the argument. When you have to bring
around this
another
country
argument that has
denying
nothing to
people
do with this.
contraception.
Don't talk over each other.
Denying people contraception, basically teaching a policy of abstinence, telling people it's wrong to have contraception, it's wrong to have sex. So when that inevitably does happen, they have no choice when they're very, very young, other than just to have a child that they don't want, that is going to completely destroy their
final
life.
word to
That
Ben
is not pro-life.
I would argue Ben Ferguson must have had sex because he's got 3 kids. So let's just put that on the table, right, Ben?
Let me say this very clearly. If you're having to then go into healthcare and arguing about healthcare to defend your position on abortion, you've lost the argument.
Ferguson's dismissal here reveals a major flaw in his reasoning. He refuses to acknowledge that contraception access, comprehensive sex education, and abortion rights are interconnected parts of reproductive health care policy. Countries with better sex education and contraception access have lower abortion rates. That's not another argument. It's the same argument about preventing unwanted pregnancies. His unwillingness to discuss these connections suggests his position is more about moral judgment than actually reducing abortions. If you genuinely want to protect life, you'd support policies that prevent unwanted pregnancies in the first place.
This is about
abortion is
Let
not
him
illegal
finish.
in the
Let him
United
finish.
States of America. Let me finish.
dignity.
Let Ben finish.
Let me finish. Abortion is not illegal in America with this ruling. It is
And if you
going
get
back
your
to
way,
the
it will be.
Constitution. Again, let me finish. Let me finish. I have a right to an opinion, so do you, okay?
Yeah, you both
but
have
the
your right
law
to
is what
opinions. On
matters
this show,
here. And
we're
the
uncensored.
Supreme Court has made it clear that they have said it's a states' rights issue, and that's what the issue is here. You don't
and
understand
how much
American
longer until we
Constitution.
see federal legislation imposed when the Republicans take back control that basically makes it illegal everywhere?
Okay.
Your country is going
It
back
would
to the Middle
automatically be
Ages.
struck
All right,
down
we've got to leave it there.
because it's a states' rights issue.
We've got to leave it there. This is the kind of debate that's raging all over America, by the way. So it's a good debate to have. I believe in uncensored debate, and passions are going to run very high about this. Ben Ferguson, Grace Blakeley, thank you both very much.